Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of WrestleCinema, a podcast on professional wrestlers who venture into acting. My name is Joe, and I am excited to start this podcast. It's been something I've been working on for the last month or two. This isn't my first venture in the podcasting world. If you've heard of me before, you've probably heard me from Project Kayfabe. That was my original podcast where we focused on wrestling and pop culture, movies. I'm a big movie guy. I'm a big wrestling guy. So we focus on the two. Then we eventually separated and made Project Kayfabe focus solely on wrestling, weekly wrestling news. We were focusing on old TNA with the Hulk Hogan era for a bit. And then Strictly Nonsense was born, where it would focus primarily on like movies and TV show reviews. But man, it is a lot of work to do a lot of different things, 2 podcasts at once. But now here we are, first episode of WrestleCinema. This is something I've been looking forward to. The thought behind this came from, I want to do a podcast where I sit down and focus on the filmography of John Cena. I want to look at his career in acting and just go movie by movie, show, cameo, and just dissect how we've been seeing this. He's been acting. Well, if you don't count wrestling, he's been acting since 2006. I mean, the movie, The Marine, that we're going to talk about today, started filming in about 2004. So 2004, 2005, here we are now reviewing a almost 20-year-old movie. Give it 2 more years. 20-year-old, 18-year-old movie right now. So yeah, WrestleCinema is born. This is our first episode. I'm very excited. There are going to be some things that we're working on. I hope you like the intro music. To this moment right now, as of this recording, don't even know what the intro is going to be. So I hope you like it. But WrestleCinema, we will be focusing on the film career of many wrestlers. John Cena is the first one we're focusing on. Then we're eventually going to move on to The Rock, Batista, of course, Stone Cold, The Miz. There are so many wrestlers who have ventured into into acting. It is incredible. I saw there's about 1,800 different movies that have wrestlers involved. And that's kind of what we're going to be focusing on here. If there's a movie that I care about enough to either watch or put myself through the torture of watching, I'm going to watch it. There's been so many different films that have wrestler cameos in there. So many wrestlers have ventured into the acting industry. I mean, just take a look at, Ricky Stenicki, a movie that we'll talk about at some point, recently came out. John Cena's latest film, where he plays a actor who's down on his luck, who just started making parody songs of making everything about dicks and whatnot. And in that movie, of course, it was John Cena, one of the biggest actors today. But then it has Nathan Jones from WWE, if you guys remember who he is. So obviously, there are a lot of wrestlers who have ventured into movies and TV shows, commercials even. So we're going to talk a lot about that. But the first series that we're going to focus on is John Cena. We may sprinkle some things here and there. So this is a podcast that will focus primarily on that. We're going to dissect the film, the performance, the things behind the scenes, things about the movies afterwards. And on top of that, there might be some other things involved. I'm not saying that we'll never talk about what's going on in current day wrestling. That'll probably happen here and there. WrestleMania is just around the corner. And, maybe on the start of our next show, we'll talk about WrestleMania for a little bit. And then, who's to say that we won't just review or briefly talk about another video? Another movie. That'll probably happen too. And as you can tell, this podcast is just me. I am the host. I've had, my boys, Finn and my boy Quade. I've done collabs with my other friends, of course, in the podcasting, wrestling world. Shout out to my boy Joey, Nick, all these people. We've done a lot of different things. But right now, this is going to be a solo project, but not fully solo. For some episodes, you'll have just me. And then for other episodes, we'll do collabs. So, we'll have some guests Finn, of course, will be on here. We'll get Quade on here. We'll get Joey on here. We'll get some new people that you've never seen before or heard from that I know that I think would hopefully be great. I would love to see where this podcast can go. Maybe we could get some, actual actors on here. Maybe we could get some people behind the scenes on some of these movies to talk with us. But, we're going to see. This is something I'm really excited for. Project Kayfabe started it all with the birth of creating a podcast that touches on movies and professional wrestling. It was really, one episode we do wrestling, the other one we do movies. Or, in the very, very early stages of that podcast that I had, we did them both on the same episode. But now, that started in August 2020. Here we are now, April 1st. And this is the new creation that I have. A podcast focusing on professional wrestlers who dive into the acting world. And of course, we're going to also touch on movies that have been about wrestling. Obviously, I want to talk about The Iron Claw at some point, The Wrestler, one of the, best movies about professional wrestling or the life of a professional wrestler. We're going to dive into all that. As I mentioned before, if you haven't already, we have Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at WrestleCinema. I post a TikTok video actually that has a list of over 1,800 movies that have had wrestler cameos or have wrestlers in it. So we have a lot of things to get through. We'll see how this goes. But yeah, I hope you are very excited for what we're doing here. Starting off with John Cena, my GOAT, my man right there. That is my GOAT. John Cena, we are starting off with his filmography, and we're going to start with The Marine, his 2006 movie. This started all of this. Obviously, John Cena, WWE superstar, one of the best, the GOAT, literally. Now, every time he comes out, he's called the GOAT. And we're going to start off the movie that really kicked off his acting career. It's produced by WWE. It's a WWE film. And I watched the whole thing for the first time in years, the unrated version. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about the script. We're going to talk about, we're going to review it. We're going to talk about his performance. We're going to break it down for you. So if you haven't already, go check out The Marine. It's available on Hulu right now. You could go watch it there. I already own a copy, so that's where I saw it. I've probably seen this movie at least 5, 6, 7 different times. Growing up, I had it on DVD. I had a bootleg copy of it. And then just, I'd watch it here and there. And then, of course, eventually I bought the digital version. That's what I just saw. It's on Hulu, so go check it out. So we're about to dive into The Marine. So thank you so much for listening to this episode. We're about to dive into it. But like I said, go follow us at WrestleCinema on all social media platforms. You can find this podcast anywhere. Tell your friends, give us a review. This is the very beginning, the first episode of WrestleCinema. And we're talking about The Marine. So The Marine is John Cena's first official lead role in a film. It came out October 13th, 2006. And, look at what has happened since then. John Cena is one of the biggest stars in the acting world, in obviously professional wrestling. He's a GOAT. This is the movie that kicked it all off for him because, he was already an actor in professional wrestling, obviously, but this is what really taught him a lot. He was taken out of WWE. Believe it or not, this is how they wrote him off. So John Cena was feuding with Carlito, who's currently still in WWE. Love to see that. Carlito Colon. Shout out to the last name. So he's having a feud with him, which also consists of Jesus, Carlito's bodyguard, and in a nightclub, kayfabe of course, Jesus stabs John Cena, which then writes him off so he could go film this movie. Of course, this happened in about 2004, 2005, because apparently this movie was filmed 2 years before it then eventually released. This is a WWE produced film, one of the first official movies under the banner of WWE Films. Obviously, they had No Holds Bar with Hulk Hogan. Then they eventually had See No Evil, which came out around the same time or the same year as The Marine. So WWE Films does this movie with John Cena. So two things that I learned when looking up everything about The Marine. First, this movie was not going to have John Cena. This was actually written for Stone Cold. And the villain, who is played by Robert Patrick, is supposed to, was originally written in mind for Al Pacino, which I think is crazy. Imagine if this movie had Stone Cold and Al Pacino going head to head. I mean, if you've seen the movie, which obviously you would have if you're listening to this review, at the end, John Cena and Robert Patrick, they're going hand to hand. They're really swinging at each other. Imagine if that was Al Pacino and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Just a different movie altogether. So we have that. But this movie was originally written for Stone Cold. And also another thing, when learning this, apparently the person that would have stabbed John Cena in the nightclub was New Jack. Just imagine that. There was a conversation of bringing New Jack into the WWE, and he would have been the one to stab John Cena, and then who knows what we would have seen with New Jack in WWE. I mean, RIP, but that I want to be a part of that timeline in the multiverse. Put me in that timeline to see what happens there. But yeah, so this movie originally written for Stone Cold. He turned down the role. He wasn't really interested in it. So was Al Pacino. Apparently there was a low salary that he was offered and he just wasn't about it. They even offered the role, or they considered the role, for Ray Liotta, another great actor, RIP. But Robert Patrick ended up getting the role, who's known for being the Terminator. He was in Terminator 2. He was the T-1000 in there. This movie was filmed in Gold Coast, Queensland, Australia. So it's very interesting. Like the Marine base that they have there is it's on a college, Bond University, I saw. And a lot of the movie was filmed in Brisbane, Australia. Other parts were filmed in Canada. Mind you, the movie is supposed to set in South Carolina, but that's what happens. This is movies. This is what we see. John Cena, this is his first major role, and he's playing a Marine. Before we dive into the entire movie, I got some things that I learned about this as well that I want to talk about. So apparently, before John Cena wanted to become a professional wrestler, he wanted to be a Marine. So I found this article from Fandom Wire from April 23rd, 2023, just a little less than a year ago. So apparently his first choice was to join the Marines. He was going to be a Marine. And then on his route to becoming a Marine, he realized that wrestling was, something he had a bigger passion for. And the rest was pretty much history. He was going to try and become a Marine, but then, he spoke to a friend and he wasn't too sure about, the physical commitment. So he was like, let me get ready. Let me train. And a friend convinced him to do professional wrestling, or at least to wrestle and get in a ring. That'll really help you. And John Cena has a quote here. Let me read this for you. Originally, I started to wrestle by mistake. I was going to join the Marine Corps, and a friend of mine was like, we are training down in Orange County. You should give it a weekend before you go down there. And I was like, yeah, whatever, I'll do it. I saw the ring, and I was hooked. So John Cena, really was supposed to become the Marine. He would have been John Triton, but instead, he became John Cena, the GOAT. One of the best to ever do it. And now he is Peacemaker. He is Dom Toretto's brother. He's done so much in his acting career. And we are starting off with his first ever movie. So John Cena apparently loved the Marine. This is one thing I saw from an interview he had with GQ. He says, this is a quote, "I'm actually very proud of the movie," he said. "My mind was elsewhere at the time at my age and in my life, and I wanted to be in the ring. The Marine was a wonderful experience, and it's one I'll never forget because you can't have a journey without the first step," Cena says. And the first step is always the boldest. They say timing is everything, and I was not ready for the opportunity I was given. So apparently John really didn't want to do this movie, which makes a lot of sense. He is at he's really picking up. At this time, he is being the United States champion. He's on his way to really having a major push to get into the world title picture. And then, this movie was supposed to go to Stone Cold. Instead, Vince McMahon, Vince redacted, goes to Cena and lets him know, like, hey, this is what we're interested in doing. Cena says, sure, why not? Because Cena has always been, that we can tell, a team player. He'll always do what is asked of him. And Cena is then brought into this film, and he didn't want to do this. He even says he wants to, live the life of a professional wrestler. Right now, he's going to all these sold-out crowds. I mean, here's the quote that I could really get into it. So there's two quotes here. So he goes, "As a young man, I wanted to be in the middle of the rock star lifestyle. I wanted to be in front of those sold out crowds. And then I go to a quiet movie set where everything takes forever. I just didn't have the wisdom or knowledge or the perception to realize how big of an opportunity this was. John Cena even apparently says that he would have loved to, do another Marine movie. The Marine we'll go through every movie at some point, has 5, 6 different movies to it. And he only did the role once. And John goes, I always wanted to do another Marine because so many folks talked to me about the Marine. I can't believe it. It was actually something I wasn't really proud of because there's a situation where I look back and say I didn't give it my all. So Cena at the time, he just really wanted to probably film that movie and get out of there because he's at the prime of, being a young man, and he's getting all the success in professional wrestling. But now Redacted sending him out to do a movie in Australia when he really just wants to, continue to fight for gold. And I get it, especially from what we learn about professional wrestlers in the business. The further you are away from the cameras of WWE, when you're not in front of the crowd, the easier it is for your spot to get replaced. But here, John Cena, that's kind of what he's thinking. He's just trying to get this done. But we'll talk about his performance in this movie. But he says he wasn't really giving it his all, and we'll discuss that. This is his first ever movie role. So yeah, that's kind of how Cena felt. But let's get into this. This is the Marine. Finally, let's dive into this. Spoilers, obviously, if you've never seen the movie, go check it out. I don't even know if you're just a fan and a supporter of myself. Thanks for listening to this episode. But we'll go down. Maybe I'll explain the movie to you, and you'll want to watch it. The Marine 2006 is the most basic thing you'll find in terms of an action movie from like the 80s or 90s. It has a lot of that 80s, 90s. It's the early 2000s. It has that feeling that is an early 2000s movie. There's random CGI that shouldn't be there. There's music that will take you out of this film, at least for me in 2024. There are moments where I'm listening to the music and I'm like, what the hell is going on? It's for 2006, probably not a big deal, but for me, a little bit. So we start the movie off. The WWE film logo comes out. It comes out very menacingly. I don't know, something about it. And I'll play the little audio for you so you to hear that. It comes off a little menacing in the beginning. It's like, is there a killer about to come out? As if you see what the logo looks like, it comes out, it's in a very dark screen, and then we transition into a close up of John Cena with the most fake blue eyes I've ever seen on a man. And he's in his Marine uniform, and he salutes real quick. And it's very corny, and it says the Marine. He's standing on a big giant CGI flag, which doesn't seem very patriotic to me. It's actually funny, when doing my research on this movie, there's an entire site dedicated to like a lot of Marine Army stuff, and there's a blog post about how faulty or how inaccurate a lot of the things that is done in the Marine with John Cena, whether it's like the patches on his chest, the guns, what he's wearing. And they mentioned he's standing on the flag. And until they said that, I'm like, actually, yeah, that is awful. That is not patriotic at all. But hey, so we start off with John Cena with a salute that they even criticize is not the greatest salute. And then the movie starts. We're in Iraq, Al-Qaeda compound. And there's like some sort of beheading video about to happen. There's a lot of U.S. Marines are captured by Al-Qaeda, and they're doing one of those videos that you've probably seen before when it comes to these terrorist videos, and they're about to behead one of the Marines. But John Cena is out in the background. He's because he's on a mission to try and get these men back. They cut to a weird shot of John Cena's eyes just dilating, and he burst into the scene. He comes in there. There's shots everywhere. John Cena has a giant gun and just like getting everybody. It is incredible. John Cena is a monster in the beginning of this movie with the way he's just taking out everyone in there. John Cena, one man army. He is getting everybody. He is attacking them all. It is incredible what he does there. Some crazy scenes. There's a guy who's like, tries to take out Cena, but Cena grabs like some bat or something. He's destroying everyone. He someone hits him with like a flame piece of wood, and John Cena, like, he's just fighting everyone off. He throws some guy over him and like stomps his head in. I was like, what in the world? Like, this is how you start off the movie. This is incredible. Let me just put this out there. The Marine, not an amazing movie, but if you're someone that can appreciate a film that you could just kind of turn your brain off and just watch, you'll like The Marine. In this rewatch that I've done, I'm sure I enjoyed it so much as a kid because it's John Cena. What kid doesn't love John Cena? But, as an adult, I'm fully expecting myself to be like, oh, not this. I don't want to watch. I don't know. I'm expecting it to be awful. It does fall into this category, and a lot of people were describing it too. That's like so bad it's good. But honestly, this movie is not as bad as you would make it seem. If you go in there, and that's what a lot of people need to do nowadays for movies. Godzilla and Kong, The New Empire, just came out. I haven't seen it yet. But I know going to those movies, I'm not expecting stellar acting. I'm expecting a giant gorilla and lizard to go hand to hand and take out a bunch of monsters. If you go into that expectation where it's like you're thinking that way, you're not going to go in there and, leave thinking, oh, man, this is not getting an Oscar, Like, you got to know what you're getting here. And that's what I came into with The Marine. Obviously, I've seen it before, but even going in with a rewatch, I'm like, I'm not expecting John Cena to get an Oscar out of this movie. But honestly, it is surprisingly good in a way. If you like those kind of old school homages to like the old action flicks, this is a great example of it. Anyway, back to where we are. So John Cena just kills a bunch of Al-Qaeda terrorists, and then we just cut into a Marine base in Germany that looks like the best liberal arts college I've ever seen. It's a Bond University in Australia, but it's supposed to be a military Marine base, but it just looks like a nice liberal arts college to me. So it turns out John Cena, he's only been a Marine for like 3 minutes in this movie, because after that, he gets discharged for disobeying an order, which is a classic movie trope when it comes to some of these like military, moments in movies where like some guy has to obey an order. It happens with cops. It happens to all these people. They're supposed to obey an order. They obviously disobey because they're trying to save lives. They're trying to save things. So it cuts to Cena, Triton. He's made it to South Carolina. We don't know it's South Carolina. The license plate on the taxi's really hard to see, but we'll learn that it is South Carolina in a bit. And then we see his wife, played by Kelly Clarkson. I wanted to say Clarkson, but it's Carlson. And I was like, man, I have never seen her in anything else. And apparently she does do a bunch of other things still. She's apparently most known for her recurring role in the FX show Nip Tuck. I do remember hearing about that show. But she pops up. She's so excited to see Triton. She's so excited to see John. And what happens when you haven't seen your wife, your partner, in so long? Obviously, because you're in the military, they start banging. They're banging, immediately start banging, which, makes sense. If I haven't seen John Cena in a while, I mean, I would be riled up too. -1 though, minus a point for they get to the bedroom and they're both wearing their shoes. That's gross, man. You got to clean. You probably had to clean the sheets anyway, but now you got to clean them even more because you put your shoes on the bed. Like, come on now. So they're banging all over their home, of course. Like, this is what happens. But dirty shoes on the bed. I know John Cena from Total Divas would have not allowed this, so we'll keep it going. So we're seeing John talk to his wife, and this is like, we're 10 minutes into the movie, and I'm here like, John Cena, this is his first acting role. You really can't tell too much. Like, you could tell, but not at the same time. I'm like expecting very dead acting. I'm expecting like horrible acting. No offense to what we saw in Madam Web, but I was expecting stuff like that. Here, John, there's a bit of charisma for someone who's doing their first major acting role. There is a moment though where I do like I can see some things that I'm like, this could have been a little bit better, but just by looking at this, you wouldn't be able to tell that this is maybe his first major role. He comes off a little bit natural. So I thought that was really great. Just looking at John Cena, he's evolved, and we're going to see that throughout this podcast as we watch and to discuss every major role that John Cena's had, or cameo, of course. We're going to go through it all. The ones that I find important, of course. So we see that. Now we cut into the villain of our movie, Rome, played by Robert Patrick. As I said before, T-1000 from Terminator 2, and he got some swag behind him. He's walking around in his nice, suit. So Rome, he pops up in a high-end jewelry store, and he is robbing the high-end jewelry store. He wants the diamond sets there. You got a Walmart brand, Joe Manganiello, the guy from True Blood, the guy, from Spider-Man, Walmart version of the guy. But then it took me a second. I'm like, whoa, wait a second. That's the guy who plays Slade Wilson from Arrow. I was like, whoa, I did not know your game, sir. I'm here calling you a Walmart brand version of Joe Manganiello. And I'm like, wait a second. That is Manu Bennett from Arrow, which was so cool. Also funny that I want to call him a Walmart version of Joe Manganiello. I'm butchering his name. But Joe also played Slade Wilson in Justice League Zack Snyder. Anywho, Manu Bennett plays the character Bennett. All right. I guess they figured out the role of that character later on. Who knows? So he plays that. And then you got Temu version of Jordana Brewster, aka Mia Toretto. She's in there. And Rome, they're taking over this place. They're just doing it all. Rome has a lot of like quips about him. He just has this swagger. He has these really great lines. It's between him and the guy who plays Morgan, in my eyes, for the best like lines in the movie. We're gonna get into Morgan in a bit, but man, Morgan was something else. Who was played by Anthony Ray Parker. But the background music, like I said, taking me out of the scene. You got Bennett and Angela, who are the people who are helping Rome rob the place. And there's the guy who's in charge of the vault, who has all the diamonds. He's also obviously in on the plan too, apparently, because he goes like, hey, you got to hit me to make it look real for the camera. So Rome's like, yeah, you know what? You're right. Kills the man right there. So we already learned Rome is a deviant. He's just going to do whatever the fuck he wants. He tells everyone, hey, I love being here. South Carolina is awesome, but I got to get out of here. The cops are coming. Rome, Morgan meet up. You got Bennett and Angela. And then next thing you know, I don't get it, but there is music that is playing. And like I said, the music will take you out of this. But there is music that is playing that has random moaning in the song. I don't get it at all. Take a listen. Take a listen. We go from music with random moaning to boom, a big RPG moment. Morgan, we learned that this man is trigger happy right off the bat. He doesn't care about killing anybody. He's just having a good old time. He's a maniac. He's a psycho. And we see that with a crazy RPG explosion that should have killed Rome because he was like right next to it. Then we cut to John Cena. John Cena, he is a security guard now because, that's what happens to, a lot of people, former Marines, former military. They go into security. Private security happens a lot. And, now he's working this desk security job. His partner is Drew Powell from Gotham. He played Solomon Grundy. Apparently, he's also in Ray Donovan. Ray Donovan I've never seen, but always seen a lot of the trailers, unfortunately. I hear it must be good. Anyway, we got this guy coming to the scene, and he's one of the just shitty rich guys. He has security with him. He's upset. He's already treating Cena like a dick. And he goes upstairs. He's looking for his girlfriend. He has some crazy line where she's like, "What are you doing? This is my job." The girl his girlfriend, and then the douchey white guy's like, "This is your job. This doesn't look like a whorehouse to me." He's basically calling her a whore, slut, blah 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 blah. John and Drew Powell, aka Joe, they come up there and they're trying to, they're security guards. They got to take care of this. John takes him all the way downstairs. And the guy is one of those guys like, "You touch me, I'm going to tell my dad and get his lawyers, blah, 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 blah." Well, this isn't going well. One of the security guards of the rich white douchebag tries to hit John. John, gets out of the way and he's like, "Yo, the genie tried to hit me." Already are we hearing some John Cena, acting comedy moments already, which I like. John has a lot of funny moments in this movie, unintentionally and some intentionally, but you can tell there's already that comedic timing that we're going to get used to in the John Cena career, because there isn't that many serious roles John plays, to be honest. I mean, take a look at what he did with being one of the, Dom Toretto's brother in Fast 9 to then Fast X, just being the fun-loving uncle. Anyway, Cena, in one of the best moments, throws this white douchey guy through a window of the place. Cena loses his job instantly, obviously. It is also incredible that a guy gets thrown through a window, not bleeding, not disgustingly destroyed by all the glass, it becomes a kind of a thing throughout this movie where people who should be hurt or dead just don't die. The plot armor is really crazy. So we got to that. There's, Joe and John have a heart-to-heart moment where he's like, you're gonna find something, John. Something will come your way. Just think about all the good things you have in your life. And Triton, is like, "Hey, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go home to my wife." And then Joe just casually is like, "Yeah, your wife's hot, bro." I'm like, wait, what? Why did that's the comedy part that they're trying to add to this movie? But whatever. It was just so fucking random. We cut back to Rome, and the music is taking me out of this movie again, because it is like, Rome is on. He's there. He's talking to Angela, who's a bit mad, and that's when we learn Angela is, a thing with Rome. Kind of. There's always those things where you have like the head honcho of like some sort of group, some sort of gang, it's the thieves, and whether it's the really attractive looking guy or just the guy in power, he's with a girl who's a part of the squad, and she's trying to get with him. Rome picks up the phone because somebody's calling him, and we learn there is a higher power at play. There is a bigger guy in the mix here that Rome is reporting to and explaining. He's the guy on the phone's like, "Hey, you're losing it. You lost control." Angela, who was just making out with Rome before the phone call came in, she just drops her dress because she's ready for playtime. And Rome has an incredible line after he's like, "You're losing control." He's like, "I have all the control. I have control." So just amazing. We continue with the movie. John Triton doesn't want to tell his wife, Kate, that he lost his job. But you know what? The news will tell it for him. It has that classic trope of like, you don't want to tell somebody anything. Well, don't worry. The news report will just tell you, or something of divine intervention will get in the way and let people know what exactly happened. We then cut to Morgan. He has to go get a car. He has to go get a new getaway car because they're about to do another, getaway to get these diamonds out to the guy in charge, the other guy, the partner. And there's this weird thing where, the guy Morgan's trying to get a car from, he has some rock candy, and he's like, "Hey Morgan, you want some rock candy?" He's like, "I don't like rock candy." Here, I'll play that so you can hear that for a second.
Rock candy? Oh man, I hate rock candy.
Oh, that's right, because that one time.
Ooh. Yeah.
So weird thing with Rock Candy, which not only gets mentioned once but twice, and then we do get a payoff from that, and we'll get to that. So Morgan is trying to get a car, not happy with the car that he gets. It's a minivan, doesn't want a minivan. Black guys don't drive minivans, apparently, to Morgan. And then, of course, he finds a nice Cadillac. But listen to the music that plays. Another part where I'm like, this is so like 90s, 2000s. It just takes me out of it, but I love it though. Part of me, like, I just love this flash in the past of watching this movie and just getting these corny moments that I understand why this movie got so many negative reviews. You know, the budget was 15 million. It made about 20 million. So did it break even? Who knows? Not truly, you know, it didn't really make that much. But then obviously this becomes a very successful straight to DVD, you know, franchise, or you could call it. They made 5-6 movies, you know, it has to be successful enough. But weird music that's playing around, but hey, I love it. We cut to Cena at Triton, and he is with Kate. There, you know, they wanted to go to the beach, but instead, you know, they're going to go on a little camping adventure, blah, 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 blah. Triton's like, I got to pull over and get some gas. And that's when he runs into the crew. That's when he runs into Rome and Angela, and they're all in the gas station getting gas as well. But of course, what happens? A cop comes. And, you know, this is the one thing I was trying to understand as someone who hasn't seen this movie in quite some time. I'm like, obviously, when I tell people what this movie is on a quick glance, it's like, hey, the Marine stars John Cena. He's playing an ex-Marine who is a security guard now, and he has to basically try and get his wife back because his wife gets taken by some guy and his crew, and he's just trying to get her back. Very much a taken, you know, kidnapping kind of scenario. And then all this time I'm telling people, I'm like, how does this happen? How does she get kidnapped if they have nothing to do with this? And that's when I learned, it's like, oh, so what happens is that the cop that's at the gas station goes and sees Rome. He's talking to him, not because he's suspicious, but just, you know, a little curious about him. Sees like a Vegas sticker on the car, blah, 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 blah. This is Morgan's fault that the car has this, because this is not the car he was supposed to have. They were supposed to have a car that was supposed to be very, you know, inconspicuous. No one would notice. So a lot of the problems that happen in this movie is because of Morgan, which is the next problem. When Morgan sees the cop talking to Rome, Morgan shoots the cop up for no reason at all. The guy wasn't doing anything quite yet to really get them to be like, hey, are you a guy who might be, you know, starting some shit? No, Morgan, trigger happy, dumb fucker, kills him. And then shoots and kills the other cop, or he attempts to kill the other cop. He turns out he might be alive, just in critical condition. John starts seeing what's happening. He's about to go run out there. Bennett knocks him in the head with a fire extinguisher, and Cena is out for the count for one of 3 or 4 times that happens in this movie where he gets dropped. But John has Super Cena plot armor on him. I think this is what created Super Cena, because John will then eventually come back, because obviously he's going to save the day. Now I'm going to just tell you how it happens. But, you know, the reason why that Kate ends up getting kidnapped, John Cena's wife, is that when Morgan's doing all this trigger happy stuff, the Cadillac that they have, the one, the Vegas sticker, that the reason they only have it is because of Morgan and not taking the car he was supposed to. The car, one of the tires gets shot. So obviously, no way you're going to get away with, you know, all these diamonds if you are driving a car with a flat tire. So they see the truck that Kate's in there. They go with the car, and they're like, you know what, maybe we should kill her. And then Rome's like, you know what, we're gonna need a hostage probably at some point, so let's, just in case we need a hostage, let's take her. And that's how they leave. Which, all right, I'm looking, and while I'm trying to watch this movie, I'm like, where are the plot holes in here? Where are the things that just doesn't make sense? But to me, that makes sense. You're going to take the car that's obviously not shot up and doesn't have a bullet hole, doesn't have a flat tire. And why are you going to take Kate when you could just leave her there? But then he's like, you know what? If things go south, a hostage can always help. I get that. That makes sense. Am I trying to be, when reviewing these movies, I'm trying not to be biased because I love Cena. I'm not trying to also slander the guy. I really want to dissect and see what could he have done better, or just see the journey of where Cena goes from the Marine all the way now to like his last movie with Ricky Stenicki, and just watch him develop and grow as an actor. That's what we plan to do here with a lot of the movies that we're going to review. So am I trying to be, nice and not, attack this movie? Not really, but at the same time, I'm looking for holes in the movie. But, that made sense. That makes sense why she would, be in the car and why they take her, because they need a hostage. It all makes sense. So Cena, Triton, he gets up, he's finally awake, and he's like, oh shit, they're taking her. He sees it. He gets the cop car that is that can still be driven. It has some bullet holes in the window. He pops out the window and he's flying down in this Camaro. He's flying down to try and go catch him. Amazing moment in here. It's been talked about if you know this movie. So Bennett, he's like, he sees, everyone sees that the cops are behind them. Rome goes like, oh no, it's the cop. Bennett's like, oh, it's not the cop. And then it's the Marine. They know he's a Marine because in the car it has a clip-on. Kate has a clip-on an ID that lets it be known that she's a wife to a military guy, John Triton, a Marine guy, and he's like, oh, it's Marine. So then, obviously, I'm rambling here. Triton's driving down, and he's like, oh, Bennett says a great line of like, because he thinks he's dead. He's like, oh, this guy's like a Terminator. And then the camera goes to Rome, obviously played by Robert Patrick. As I said, the T-1000 from Terminator 2. They have a crazy chase scene after this. But, that moment right there, I was like, I love that. That was a nice little nod you didn't have to do, but you did, and I appreciate that. That's why I think this movie deserves a little bit more props. Not just that, but a good reason. So amazing chase scene happens. They're really trying to get away from John, but John is a man on a mission. They have his wife, so what are you going to do? He's going to do whatever it takes to try and get her. But they somehow get the car to, they pull over to like near a cliff, and they somehow get John to drive his car, run off the cliff after hitting their car, and we get a crazy slow-mo explosion. Shots and shots and shots are getting sent at this car. John should be dead, but you know what? He falls out of the car and into the river that is behind this ditch, that is in this ditch. And this is another moment where Cena should have died. Where right now there was the explosion, because if I didn't mention it, Morgan blows up the gas station where John should have died at before. So John escaped that one moment, and now he escapes another crazy explosion. So we have all this going down. John falls into the water, and then we cut into a scene where there's Detective Van Buren. Detective Van Buren is somebody who's trying to figure out what's going on. He's a cop. He's a detective, that's, on the case to see what's going on here with the people. And, just they're focusing a little too much on this guy, which already has me in my head. I'm like, he's probably going to be the leader. He's going to be the other guy. Why this is where the movie is, falls into the territory of it's very obvious where things go. It's very obvious that John's going to save his wife at some point. It's very obvious that there's somebody dirty in the mix. And that's where, they keep focusing on Detective Van Buren. In my head, I'm like, why would they focus on this guy? And, they let us know that there is another guy involved in this. And he's been calling Rome to be pissed off about things. Yeah, I know where this connects to. Anyway, Detective Van Buren's on the case trying to figure out what's going on. We cut back to the guys, the crew with Kate. They're pissed because right now they're also in the swamp. So they're in the South Carolina swamp after their car gets destroyed. They're just trying to find somewhere to go. Morgan, black dude, if I didn't mention that already, he's the one in charge of carrying Kate. Kate tries to mess him up and runs away. She doesn't. She gets her ass then kicked by Angela. And then Morgan just goes into this big rant about, like, all this wouldn't have happened if someone started killing cops. But Rome's like, dude, you're the guy that killed the cop. And then he's like, oh, you're going to blame the black guy. You're going to blame the black guy about this. Black guy this, black guy that. Here, I'll play this for you again so you can hear that.
Man, the hell with this.
Well, you got a problem, brother?
My problem is walking through this dirty-ass swamp with the entire county looking for us because somebody decided that killing cops was a good idea.
Genius. That somebody's you. You're the one that killed the cops.
Yeah, both of them.
Oh. So now we want to start playing the blame game, huh? Always want to blame the black man. Somebody steals a car, the black man did it. House gets robbed, black man. Cop car gets blown up by an Israeli single-shot, shoulder-fired rocket launcher. Guess who?
The black man.
So he has this whole thing about being upset, and we got this guy Vassar. Vassar is just randomly a part of this crew. He wasn't in the beginning scenes. He just randomly popped up. I don't really know why they have him, but then we get a reason why to have him. So he's chirping Morgan. Morgan's pissed. Morgan wants to kill Vassar. Vassar wants to kill him too. They have guns. Vassar has a giant knife. Crocodile Dundee ass knife. And then Rome's like, whoa. We're trying to, get a job done here, and I can't do this with you guys trying to kill each other. And, Morgan's just pissed. He's like, I'm tired of this guy, blah, 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 blah. He's like, no one's killing anybody unless you get my word. And then what Rome does? He kills Vassar. And, he kills him because he's like, you know what?
You never know when you'll need a crazy son of a bitch.
Which makes a lot of sense. You need Morgan. He's crazy as hell, so you need him. And then, we see alligators in the swamp eat up Vassar. Why not? Why not? Just randomly eat him up. So Vassar is dead, killed by alligators, while his Crocodile Dundee ass knife is left there in the dirt. But who's going to find it? John's going to find it. And John has a nice, awesome knife to walk around with as he runs in the swamp trying to find his wife. And, he's just, we get a lot of different cuts where we see John running in the swamp. It's something. it's just funny to watch it happen, man. So this movie is still something else. There's moments where like it shouldn't be funny, but they make it funny, or it's like, it's just like I could see why people, if you're going into just expecting an action flick, you're not expecting some of the things right here. Like, for example, Rome's having a conversation with the other guy on the phone while they're walking in this swamp, and the other guy's giving him shit. He's so mad. Rome tells him he's out of the deal. He's like, you know what? You're not getting your cut, man. Fuck you. You're done. And then another call is happening, and Rome's like, hold on, can you give me a second? I'm getting another call. And then the other guy's like, all right, sure. And it's somebody calling him about his cable. He's like, she's like, oh, you've been approved to get everything? He's like, oh, I'm getting all the sport packages? I'm like, what the hell was this? And then we cut to another scene after we just saw John again running and searching for the crew and his wife. And then Rome, they're having a little bit of banter, the crew. And then Rome goes to Kate because Kate just calls Rome a psycho. And then Rome's like, that's not very nice for you to tell me that. You don't even know me. And then just listen to what he says, the Looney Tune ass music in the background. Just listen.
What do you think, Kate?
I think you're psychotic.
Whoa! Now how can you say that? You don't even know me. It's very judgmental. Is she looking at me? I'm gonna be totally honest here. I thought that you and I, we could have had a future, if it wasn't for...
You're insane.
Maybe. Good talk.
So all this is happening. Rome is he's just having these moments. It's so between him and Morgan. I don't know who I love more, because you got Morgan, who's a weirdo, has an issue with rock candy, and I forget to mention, but in the beginning, in the car chase, in the chase, you know, Rome, when he's like, oh no, the cops are here, and before we know it's John Triton. Morgan, he's like, I don't like cops and I don't like rock candy. I'm like, what the hell? So these two are having a battle for who's my favorite character in this movie. So yeah, Rome just had that weird moment with Kate. Makes no sense. We cut back to John. John's looking around, of course, with his big old knife. And then he gets caught in a booby trap. He somehow instantly gets out of the booby trap with this big knife, lands on his feet, which looks like at least a 25 foot drop. And then he gets confronted by a hillbilly with a shotgun. He's like, oh, why are you cops here? Get this cop out of here. And he's like, I'm not a cop. He puts the knife to the hillbilly's neck. And then next thing you know, some big old black guy hits him with a big piece of wood, knocks out John again. So this is another time where John is out for the count. This is like the third time. First with the big getting hit with the fire extinguisher, the explosion, then the explosion that throws him out into the river. John is going through it, man. John is really going through it. He's locked up now with these hillbillies. These hillbillies are probably meth dealers, because they are doing some drug packing, and they're very upset that John is around. And they're like, you're a cop, get out of here, cop. Why are you here, cop? Blah, blah, blah. John keeps saying, I'm not a cop. So the only way to get out of this, he's like, you know what? I am a cop, and I got my GPS tracker on me, and they're going to find me. And he's like, what? So the hillbilly tells the black dude, go search him. John hits the guy, gets out. And by the way, he's strapped to a chair. He throws his ass back to break the chair, and then that's when he beats their asses, and John gets out of that scenario. Just many moments where John should have died in this movie, but instead, Super Cena plot armor. So Super Cena plot armor, very thick here. John gets out of there. He eventually finds the crew. The crew, they are now in a shack that they just found. Morgan is being sent to go get to turn the generator on so they could have power in this shack. But before that, we get the answer we've been looking for. Why is Morgan have a problem with rock candy?
Morgan, see if you can go find a generator.
Why me?
Why not?
What if there's some guy out there with a hockey mask and a hatchet? Or a group of country-ass crackers craving some man love?
It'll be fun, like summer camp.
Yeah, but brothers don't camp.
Yeah, well, actually, I did go to camp once. I was 13 years old. And there was this camp counselor, cool, hunky, Timothy. Tim. Or as he liked to be called, Johnny Whiplash.
Well, tell us, Morgan, what did this, Johnny Whiplash have to offer?
Well, first, he offered friendship. Then some rock candy. Then he offered me something that I never should have accepted.
Wow. Well, good luck with all that. I'll go find the generator.
So that's Morgan's backstory. He was molested. He is molested. He had a weird homosexual experience with a camp counselor, which goes back to where he says, black guys don't do camping. Well, he did. And this is why he doesn't anymore. And this is why he doesn't like rock candy, which this homosexual experience is what makes him a trigger-happy psycho. 2006, man. So they tell Morgan, go find the generator. Morgan figures it out. But you know who's there? John Triton is there. Triton takes him out with his spear. We hear an amazing girl scream. That's his first death of the crew. John kills Morgan. Now, the crew's realizing, well, Morgan's been gone for a while. Rome tells Bennett, go figure out what's going on. We get an amazing action scene between Bennett and Cena. Cena does a crazy choke slam to Bennett, and he does his own little... Bennett has a crazy girl scream too. Weird. Just look at that. So now Bennett is dead. If it wasn't a choke slam, it's when John lands right on top of him. So that happens, and that's, the generator, everything is down. That's when the crew realizes, something's going on. Kate tries to escape. Angela, she's there to stop Kate, but they're like going at it. Like Kate really has learned some stuff from John because she's a badass. She can kick ass. It is incredible. So then John breaks into the shack because he doesn't know that his wife is just, tried to run away and she's outside. John runs into the shack. He confronts Rome, but who is there? Detective Van Buren. And Detective Van Buren got his gun out. He's telling John, hey, you don't want to do this. You got to, I got this, blah, blah, blah. And, the Rome is like, well, you can't do anything to me yet because you still need I still have what you want. And that's, of course, it was very obvious. I knew it. In my notes I knew. It was obvious. Detective Van Buren is the other guy. He wants the diamonds. He wants the money. Rome's not going to do any of that because why? He kills Detective Van Buren because Detective Van Buren was about to kill John, but John gets in the way. Rome is shooting them up, but he's actually shooting up Van Buren. Van Buren is done. R.I.P. Van Buren. Very obvious double turn going on here. It was obvious. So all this is happening. Rome gets out, but before he gets out, because John is, he's been trying not to get shot at this entire time. Rome shoots and destroys the shack. He hits the gas lines. Giant explosion. Of course, Cena somehow lives again. Lands in the water because now they're escaping. They get out of there. Rome, Angela, and Kate. They're running away. They got the car. Before that happens, John learns that Rome is trying to run away. He needs a getaway car that's going to be at the marina. So, this is another part where I'm like, how does John eventually catch up to them? Well, that's where he learns it. He overheard the conversation that Rome was having when John was staking out the place. So, all in all now, we're getting to the final moments of this movie. And I'm like, I know what's going to happen, but how is it going to happen? So that's how, there's no plot hole there of like, how does John catch up to them? I mean, he must know how to drive a boat. I mean, he's a Marine and he must know how to read GPS to figure out how to get to Rita Marina, where they're going to have this car. So they get out there, they're driving over. John sees his wife in the distance, and that's when he kicks into action. He's going over there. He runs to catch up to them. He gets into this. So they're driving a truck, by the way. They're driving a truck. Like I said, if you've seen the movie, you know. And John, he sees his wife. He's trying to get her, but Angela's in the way. Instead, John pulls Angela out of the car, out of the truck, throws her out of the window. And what happens? A bus comes and Angela goes through the window of the bus. Very Final Fantasy-esque. And she dies. Blood spatters all over the diamond. They splatter all over the diamonds that she had. And wow. What an incredible moment. The craziest kill of this movie. More John Cena plot armor where he just can't die. This truck that Rome is driving, and if there's some inconsistencies, you've seen the movie. I've been breaking down this entire movie. We're going to figure out how the reviews are going to go here. But yeah, John should be dying. He should be cut up. He should be destroyed. He should be dirty. He looks like fine, which is incredible of inconsistencies there. Like any normal man, I know it's a movie, but he should have lost like a limb at some point. No, nothing. This giant truck that Rome is driving starts then, after Cena falls off of it. It still has Kate and Rome in the car, and they're going through explosions. They're hitting things that are exploding, and the truck, not on fire yet, not destroyed, can still drive it. They drive through a giant building, a warehouse, whatever it is. The truck falls into the water with Kate, who is handcuffed in there, and she is drowning. The truck is drowning. She is drowning along with it, and Cena's trying to go save her. Next thing you know, because Rome jumped out of the truck before it drove itself into the river, he's there to confront Cena. He's trying to take him out left and right. They're fighting, going. Just imagine, like I said, if Stone Cold and Al Pacino were doing this, but instead you got Cena and Rome going at it. And this is the one part where I'm like, well, Rome is Rome, probably in his 40s, early 50s, who knows, whatever the age is. I can look at it some other time, but he's really taking it to Cena. I know maybe the answer is Cena's so tired and frustrated. He is, beat death 4 times already in this movie. So maybe that's why he's getting the upper hand on him. He also did take his leg out with a pipe. So it makes sense maybe why he's getting a bunch of jabs and looking strong over John Cena. But Cena eventually throws his ass into the fire of this building that is just getting, rubble all over it. Cena jumps into the water. He's able to save Kate, brings her out. He's trying to bring her back to life. He's doing his best, man. And then next thing you know, Rome, he pops out, and he's all burnt up. He's Freddy Krueger-esque, man. He's the Terminator. He will not die. He will not die. Cena was just trying to bring his wife back to life. And, for a moment, I think what would have made this movie better, to be honest, is if she died. No one important dies. The villains die because they're villains, but no one, I thought when she's drowning at the end, I'm like, oh no, this is it for her. She's done. Oh no, she lives. She lives. John Cena does bring her back. But anyway, Rome is the Terminator. He is Freddy Krueger. He's burnt all over in the face, but he gets killed, and maybe the other craziest kill of this movie, the most creative one, I'll give it, because Angela going through the window of the bus and all that crazy moment, but John with the most creative kill, because Rome is trying to choke him out with a chain, but John somehow gets the chain wrapped around Roman, tosses him over, and the chain is wrapped around his neck, and John pulls the chain back real crazy, and that kills Rome right there. But they had a crazy fight moment. I mean, at one moment, Rome takes out a sledgehammer. Shout out Triple H. And it's just crazy. But that's the movie right there. The movie ends with John, Kate, they're kissing. The fire is all over them. The building is burning. Sirens are in the background. And this movie is over. It is directed by John Bonito. The only other movie that I've seen that he is directed is Carjacked. It's apparently starring the bad guy from Blade, Steven Dorff. So, yeah, that's it. The movie ends with If It All Ended Tomorrow by John Cena and the Trademark, which is off John Cena's only album, the You Can't See Me album. So, yeah, that's the movie. I know I just broke it down to you all. I mean, if you've seen it, you didn't need to hear me break it all down, but that is what I wanted to do here. This is our first episode of WrestleCinema, and we just did the Marine. Incredible. I think this movie is a lot better than people give it credit for. A lot of people, especially back then, thought this movie is a piece of shit. I don't think it's a piece of shit. I think if you go into this movie to know, hey, this is an action movie. This is a movie with John Cena in his first live action, first real role. And you're like, this is produced by WWE. This isn't don't expect cinema. Expect just a good action flick. I think this is a good action flick. We get action. We get some comedy in there. John's acting is better than what you would think a first-time actor would be doing. For a guy that really didn't give his all here, and he says it, I explained it in that quote earlier, Sure, there's a lot left that could be wanted out of John's performance, but there is motions, there is feeling in here. There is attempts. There is an attempt, and we will see him grow because John does more. I mean, John has so many movies, man. John Cena has so many moments that we're going to dissect and really get into it. At least from what I'm seeing here, there are 83 different acting roles with John in here. A lot of them are either WWE video games or, just being on like Raw or WrestleMania or pay-per-view. But so John, this is for his first real role outside of professional wrestling. I think he did what he had to do, and I think he gave us a really good performance for someone of his caliber at the time. We will see him develop into some more action roles, into some more comedic roles, but I really enjoy this performance. Honestly, I'm going to give this movie a nice C+. A nice C+, maybe a B- kind of territory. And with the caveat of like, hey, I go into this movie expecting an action flick, and I got an action flick. That's what I think the Marine is. It's better than what people think. If you go into that with that mindset, you'll feel that. I do have some reviews here on Letterboxd that I do want to discuss. Some of the most popular ones that I'm seeing on here. So let us look at what people on Letterboxd are saying, because there's some mixed opinions about this movie. So here on Letterboxd, I'm seeing a 4-star review. This guy, 2012, goes, "Sometimes you just want a cheeseburger. You don't even want a particularly good cheeseburger. You want a greasy, nasty one that your stomach will probably pay for it later. The Marine is that cheeseburger. It's formalic, predictable, and dumb, but it wears those traits in all the best ways. Cena may have the charisma of a tree stump. I don't know about that. But he's only supposed to be looking good running through swamps, punching dudes, and firing machine guns and jumping out of exploding buildings. Also, I cannot stress enough how much the buildings explode in this movie. Like, there's like 4 explosions that John Cena survives, 4 to 5. Also, on the top of that, you have Robert Patrick selling the hell out of the bad guy role. It's cheesy and glorious and worth watching, provided you know exactly what you're getting into. And then watch for the BMF Cast 125. Not too sure what that meant. Maybe that's him plugging something, but that is very true. If you know what you just go in there knowing what you're going to get, you'll have fun with this movie, and that's what the Marine is. You see some other stuff here. I got a 1.5 star from this one girl, Olivia. She puts, surprisingly, this isn't the only time John Cena has had to fight Robert Patrick, which is true. John Cena and Robert Patrick are back together again in Peacemaker, and we will definitely talk about Peacemaker on some point on this show. Then we got a quote, "I hate cops." 3 stars out of 3.5 stars. Literally 2 minutes into this movie, John Cena kills like 10 people. His wife is kidnapped, which means it's time to brutally snap necks and throw people out of a truck into a moving bus. Everything this guy touches fucking explodes, and it's beautiful. This movie ends with a needle drop from Cena's 2005 rap album, "You Can't See Me," right after he does an Olympic-level dive into a lake while an entire warehouse explodes behind him. This is pure meathead cinema, classic Cena's Station. I don't know what that meant there, but yeah, man, if you just go in here and you're like, yeah, this is what I'm expecting, you're going to enjoy it, man. I don't think this is as bad as people thought. Someone says right here, Dwanson Joyce goes, essentially a campy 80s action film coated in modern-day wrapping paper. The Marine is one of those films that's so incredibly dumb in its plotting and over-the-top action sequences. It's so obviously bad, yet you can't help but have a ball watching it. Yeah, man, it's bad but good, man. Call me a simple man, but a film that features in its opening minutes Robert Patrick exploding a police car in slow motion set to the more human than human by white zombies is obviously doing something right. This is by Justin LaLiberty, 3 stars. Like I said, this movie, incredible. I really enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of the podcast. This is WrestleCinema. This is our first episode. I know I probably rambled a bit too long. I'm still going to be figuring out the formula of how we're going to do this show. But yeah, this is our first episode. I'm going to try my best not to fully dissect every movie like I just did here, but we will fully look into Cena's role. Maybe in our next episodes, we'll be a little bit more of like our most memorable moments from the movie, since, I don't have to fully dissect the entire movie, but for the first episode, why not? We're going to learn as we do this. WrestleCinema, you can find us on all social media platforms that really matter. That is TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. We do have Facebook as well. We're on YouTube as well, so everything is at WrestleCinema. You can find us there. Like I said, this is our first episode. If I didn't mention this already, this series will probably be a bi-weekly series. Maybe we'll have some episodes that do weekly numbers, but we're going to be bi-weekly for the most part. You can expect our next episode about 2 weeks from now, and we're going to look into 12 rounds. 12 rounds, John Cena's second movie under WWE. I'm excited for this one. It's not quite too different from The Marine. We'll get into it all. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. 12 Rounds is our next movie that we will follow in this John Cena watch-along filmography run. You could find 12 Rounds right now on Amazon. You can rent it, obviously. I don't see it on any streaming platforms at the moment. But yeah, go check it out. 12 Rounds if you haven't already. If not, maybe when we talk about it next week, or 2 weeks from now, maybe you'll really be interested in checking out that movie. But don't worry, we will be watching so many movies with wrestlers in them, with John Cena, you name it, we're going to do. If you have something you're interested in, let me know. Tell us, comment, write to the show if you want. You can hit us up on our DMs on Twitter and Instagram. We're always open. And if you're someone I know who might be interested in doing a movie review and discussion with me, let me know. Feel free. This has been our podcast, WrestleCinema. This is my first thing I've done in quite some time, ever since some crazy direction I had to do with my content. But I'm excited. Thank you for listening. See you in 2 more weeks. Leave a review, comment, subscribe, do what you gotta do.